In the soft glow of dawn, Alexander Sinclair stood in front of the wall of glass that encapsulated his penthouse view. The city sprawled below, alive and vibrant, yet he felt an unshakable emptiness gnawing at his insides. He had everything a man could want: money, power, luxury, but waking up each day felt like pressing reset on a life that lacked meaning. It was during one of his casual outings, masked under the pretense of enjoying local cuisine, that fate intervened. The diner he had stumbled into was quaint, bustling with everyday people who wore their stories on their sleeves, unfiltered and real. And then there was Emily. As she moved between tables, her laughter was brighter than sunbeams breaking through the clouds. It was genuine, unfamiliar to him, and it sliced through the veil of his privileged existence, stirring something deep within him. "Your smile is infectious," he had found himself saying to her, shaking off years of formalities as if they were dust. Her surprised grin lit her face, and in that moment a connection sparked, one that would lead him on a path of unexpected emotions. Each word exchanged felt significant, filling the void he had grown so accustomed to. As he continued his visits, time spent with Emily transformed from a guilty indulgence into an awakening. The disparity between their worlds became more pronounced, yet she made his wealth feel trivial, exposing a vulnerability in him he had long buried. He was no longer just a businessman seeking the next deal. He was a man captivated by an authentic spirit that brought warmth to his hollow life. What would this encounter mean for him? Could it challenge the very foundations of his identity? As thoughts raced through his mind, he realized that he stood on the precipice of something profound. The charming facade of his existence was fraying, but within that unraveling lay an opportunity for him to discover true wealth. The kind not measured in currency, but in love and connection. Little did he know, this single moment with a waitress would shake the pillars of his carefully curated life, redefining everything he thought he knew about happiness. A journey was about to unfold, one that would draw him into the depths of his own soul and challenge the societal expectations that had long dictated his existence. The bell above the door jingled as Alexander Sinclair stepped into the bustling diner, a jarring contrast to the polished, sterile environments he usually frequented. Today, his commanding presence felt diminished within the chaos of clattering dishes and animated conversations, an unfamiliar ache of ennui settling deep in his stomach. He watched as Emily weaved between tables, her infectious smile illuminating the dim space around her, embracing each customer with a warmth that felt almost foreign to him. "Coffee refill," she chimed, her voice laced with genuine cheer as she approached him, pausing for just a moment. He nodded, briefly caught off guard by the sincerity in her gaze. This wasn't the casual indifference he was used to in the company of society's elite. "Well, you seem to have the enthusiasm that could rival 100 coffee pots," he found himself saying, the compliment slipping out before he could overthink it. Emily's laughter rang clear, like chimes in the wind, startling him in its buoyancy. "I just try to make every day a little brighter. It's the least I can do when there are so many people just trudging through life." Her words cut through the ambient noise and sparked an unexpected intrigue within Alexander. The simplicity of her statement resonated, stirring a deep recognition in him that he had long ignored. "Trudging through life," he echoed, pondering the resonance of her words with a frown. He lingered a little longer than usual that day, captivated not by her beauty, but by the stories she shared. Her dreams of becoming a writer, the struggles of balancing several jobs, and the laughter and tears intertwined in those experiences. Each interaction filled the room with a light he had not known he was missing. As their conversation unfolded like an intricate tapestry, the weight of his wealth felt heavier on his shoulders, yet somehow more insignificant than ever. He listened as she recounted her latest struggles with finding inspiration, her eyes sparkling with passion that was startlingly real. He couldn't help but notice the stunning contrast between her genuine laughter and the forced chuckles he exchanged at elite gatherings. The absurdity of it all gnawed at him, leaving him restless. Watching her, the allure of riches felt like a mask slipping away. He was again confronted with the grim reality that had become his life: lavish parties scattered with superficial conversations and hollow connections. Here, amidst the ordinary lives of diner patrons, he He felt the fog of his privilege begin to lift, revealing the stark, unfiltered authenticity that pulsed within Emily. Something inside him began to shift. It was as if she had opened a door long bolted shut, allowing the starkness of his emotional void to wash over him. The ongoing dance of her vibrant spirit against his stillness propelled him into deeper introspection. What was it that he truly wanted? In those fleeting moments, the diner became a magnifying glass through which he could see the ravages of a life lived without connection. With every encounter, this surprising vulnerability prompted him to question the choices that had defined him. What lay beyond the shimmering facades of wealth? Each laugh they shared echoed in his mind, hinting at the possibility of a life intertwined with genuine warmth and authenticity, a notion that both thrilled and frightened him. In the clamor of everyday life around him, Alexander Sinclair was beginning to comprehend that perhaps true fulfillment lay in the simplest, most profound connections. As weeks slipped into a familiar rhythm, Alexander became a steadfast presence at the diner, each visit cloaked in the guise of casualness. Yet, beneath this facade, he found himself inexorably drawn into Emily's world, a world brimming with authenticity and warmth that starkly contrasted his own. The bustling atmosphere of the diner, with its clattering dishes and lively conversations, felt more like home to him than the sterile opulence of his penthouse. "Did I ever tell you about my dream of traveling the world?" Emily asked one afternoon, her eyes dancing with the thrill of imagination as she leaned against the counter, wiping her hands on her apron. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and he leaned in, captivated by her unfiltered passion. "No, but I would love to hear about it," he replied, his voice steady even as a tremor pulsed in his chest. Her eyes lit up like stars, each word a vivid brushstroke painting scenes of bustling markets in Morocco and serene beaches in Thailand. As he listened, he felt something inside him stir, a mix of envy and longing. It was recognition, sharp and unsettling, of his own ambitions buried beneath layers of expectations and responsibilities he had long accepted as his life. "Those sound like incredible adventures," he said, trying to mask the melancholy threading through his tone. "It is just a dream for now," she shrugged, modestly deflecting praise. But a current flowed between them, both powerful and dangerous, acknowledging unspoken truths about their lives, her desire for freedom and exploration, and his building discontent with the emotional prison he had constructed around himself. "Sometimes that is where it all starts, right?" he mused, his gaze drifting to the busy diner window, feeling the gravity of a world he yearned to engage with, but could not. Her laughter broke through his reverie, sliding like a warm blanket over the icy realization that he, too, once had dreams. With each encounter, Alexander began to unveil snippets of his life, though cautiously, navigating the delicate balance between vulnerability and trust. He shared tales of his childhood, of nights spent dreaming beneath the stars of endless possibilities, but always returning to the gilded cage he now inhabited. In ripples, he found courage to voice his discontent, and with each word, a disquieting truth emerged. Beneath the glimmering surface of wealth and influence lay a profound solitude that gnawed at him. "Do you ever feel trapped by what others expect of you?" he asked, the question spilling out before he could reel it back. Her brow furrowed slightly, as if examining his words in the light. "Every day," she admitted, her expression softening. "But I try to remember that the only limits we face are the ones we create ourselves." The clarity of her insight reverberated within him, inciting a soft rebellion against the mask he had worn for so long. They shared laughter, the kind that held promises of something deeper, something tantalizingly close, yet perilously out of reach. Yet, with each passing moment, the growing bond between them began to navigate murky waters, hinting at a connection both thrilling and forbidden. "Do not get too close to him, Emily," cautioned Lisa one evening, her tone heavy with concern as she wiped down a table near them. "He is from a different world. You know how those rich types can be. It does not end well for people like you." The warning hung in the air, a chill settling over the intimacy they had nurtured. Emily stiffened at Lisa's words, her gaze flickering between Alexander and her co-worker's scrutinizing eyes, the mix of attraction and apprehension battling within her. "It is not like that," Emily insisted. But a shadow of doubt crept into her voice. weight of their disparate worlds pressed heavily upon her, and Alexander felt it too. A clash of desire and fear swirling, complicating the fragile bond they were weaving together. Each stolen glance became laden with tension, as Lisa's words echoed in Emily's mind, introducing a hesitation that made their moments together feel both sacred and precarious. Would she allow the fears born from her social standing to pull them apart? And Alexander, sensing the change in her, fought an internal battle against the instinct to retreat into the safety of his life. How many masks was he wearing in his life? The thought pounded in his chest, merging with admiration for Emily's effortless authenticity. The contrast between their lives sparked a trajectory within him, a yearning to reclaim the ambition he had once suffocated. His heart raced with a realization. To hold on to the connection blooming between them would require more than casual visits. It would demand the courage to confront the shadows of their realities. The grand ballroom shimmered under a cascade of crystal chandeliers, their glow reflecting off polished marble floors. Alexander Sinclair stood amidst the opulence, an oddity among the sea of perfectly tailored suits and sparkling gowns. The air buzzed with superficiality, laughter echoing like a hollow shell, resonating against the walls adorned with elegant paintings and lavish floral arrangements. Yet, in this world, enveloped by grandeur, Alexander felt painfully out of place. He scanned the room, searching for something, anything, that might anchor him amidst the dazzle of envy and greed. Conversations flowed like champagne, circling around business triumphs, investment strategies, and social maneuvering. It all felt dizzying and irrelevant to him. His mind wandered to Emily, the waitress whose laughter had crept into his thoughts, igniting a yearning that sparked in ways he didn't quite understand. "Did you see the stock market?" a voice called to him, jolting him back to the moment. He barely registered the question, offering a half-hearted nod to a colleague who continued to boast about his latest financial conquest. All he could think of was the way Emily's smile lit up the dimmest corners of his heart, awakening feelings long buried beneath the weight of expectations. As his gaze drifted across the room, he noticed a couple entwined in a passionate embrace, their affection a finely choreographed dance of wealth and privilege. They laughed, genuine and joyous, or so it appeared, yet to Alexander it looked anything but real. The display of devotion felt hollow against the backdrop of his thoughts, a stark reminder that all this, the charity, the glitzy parties, often masked a deeper discontentment. Suddenly, he felt an urge so strong, it was almost primal. With a furtive glance around, he slipped outside, the evening air cool against his skin, a stark contrast to the stuffiness of the galley. He found himself leaning against the cool railing, the city lights twinkling below like stars caught above the mundane. Alexander took a deep breath, searching for clarity, but instead, his thoughts spiraled back to Emily. The pull of her warmth wrapped around him like a comforting blanket, reassuring yet unsettling. In a moment of reckless abandon mixed with vulnerability, he retrieved his phone and typed out a message with trembling fingers, inviting her to meet without the constraints of titles or formality. As he stared at the screen, doubt crept in like fog rolling over the water. What if someone saw? What if word spread and his peers scoffed at him? A businessman of his stature shouldn't be seeking out a mere waitress, shouldn't be vulnerable enough to wish for a connection beyond the standardized norm. But beneath that anxiety lay a burning spark of rebellion, a desire to break free from the gilded cage of his life. He hesitated before hitting send, the thought of her smile swelling his heart, but worry nagged at him like a persistent itch in the back of his mind. The following evening, the charity gala was behind him, yet the remnants of anxiety lingered like perfume trapped in a closed room. He paced in front of his mirror, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Would she say yes? Would their worlds colliding come crashing down like crystal shattering against cold marble? A gentle knock at the door startled him from his worries. "Alexander, you ready?" his assistant called, and the sound was a stark reminder of the world he was footing into once again. The eyes of those around him felt like spotlights, dim at first, but intensifying with every passing moment. His heart raced as he stepped into the social fray, thoughts of Emily fighting for space in his mind. "Enjoying the view?" a peer commented, noticing the tense expression on his face. Something like that, he replied, though the warmth in his chest began to dwindle under the scrutiny of expectations. He forced himself to engage, but with every laugh shared and every success boast recounted, the growing gulf between him and Emily enveloped him like shadows at dusk. All he could think of was the innocent brightness of her smile, the raw honesty of their shared moments that resonated far deeper than the superficiality sprawled before him. Alexander felt a stirring within, like a storm brewing just out of sight, threatening to break open his facade and reveal the truth he couldn't ignore. How long could he pretend? How long until the truth of his affection jeopardized everything he had built? The walls of fortune pressed down upon him, a beautiful cage that now felt suffocating. The contrast of his two worlds shook him to the core, and as he maneuvered through the laughter and conversations, he couldn't help but fear that his growing affection for Emily could either become the anchor grounding him, or the very storm that could tear his carefully curated life apart. The evening air was cool, as Emily made her way to the secluded park, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Tonight felt different. It was a moonlit escape from the realities that weighed heavily on both of them. The silence of the park, punctuated only by the rustle of leaves, offered a sanctuary where the world beyond could fade into the background. As she approached, her eyes caught sight of Alexander leaning against a bench, his figure illuminated by the silver light filtering through the trees. "Hey," he greeted, and the warmth in his tone melted away some of her nerves instantly. "Hi," she replied, attempting a casual smile that she hoped concealed her anxiety. "Thanks for inviting me out here? Would not miss it for the world," he said, gesturing for her to sit next to him. As she settled in, the warmth of his presence enveloped her, reading as sincere and inviting. They began to talk at first about trivial matters. Favorite movies, silly childhood memories, but soon the conversation began to spark into something deeper, resonating with laughter that echoed softly in the night. Emily found herself captivated by Alexander's candidness, his words flowing freely as he painted a picture of his childhood. "You know," he said, his gaze directed into the distance, "growing up in a mansion isn't all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes I felt like a character in a story that someone else was writing for me." "Really?" Emily leaned in, intrigued. "What do you mean by that?" "There was this pressure to be perfect, to succeed in ways my family had defined. I often felt more like a trophy than a person," he admitted, shadows of vulnerability casting over his features. "It's hard to explain. I learned to hide my true self beneath layers of expectation. But here, talking to you, it's different. It feels freeing." As they exchanged stories, a sanctuary unfolded between them. A space where status meant little and laughter was woven into their very beings. But behind the camaraderie lingered an unshakable tension. For every moment of connection, a nagging doubt whispered in the back of Alexander's mind. What if the truth about his wealth shattered this fragile bond? "Can I ask you something?" he ventured, drawing a breath to steady the storm of emotion swirling within him. "Of course," Emily replied, almost immediately sensing the shift in the atmosphere. He hesitated, his brow furrowing as contemplation danced across his features. "Do you ever worry about being just another story in someone else's life? About ending up as a fleeting moment in a wealthy man's escapade?" Emily looked into his eyes, where she found a reflection of her own fears. "Every day," she confessed, biting her lip as a hint of vulnerability seeped through. "I mean, how can I be sure I am more than just a notch in your belt? Everything about me, from my job to my dreams, seems so small next to your world." The admission hung heavily in the cool night air, each word lingering like an echo of their intertwined fears. Alexander felt the weight of her words settle deep within him, knowing exactly what she meant. "I do not want to be that guy," he murmured, a flicker of urgency penetrating the calm of the moment. "I like you for who you are, not for your background or your job. When I am with you, I forget the wealth, the expectations, everything. I want to believe that," she replied softly, her eyes searching his for honesty. "But it's hard when reality feels like a storm, always lingering just out of sight. What happens if one day you are forced to choose between your world and us?" Every uncertainty surged to the forefront, complicating the delicate fabric of their connection. Alexander's heart raced as the truth clawed at his insides. The more he revealed, the more he feared losing her, a looming threat nestled just beneath their authentic moments. "You are not just a moment to me, Emily," he stated. His voice steadied with conviction as he grasped her hand, anchoring them both in the reality of the bond they were creating. "I admire you, not for your circumstances, but for your spirit and warmth. Those things matter more than society's judgments." In that moment, something shifted. The acknowledgement of their vulnerabilities bound them tighter, intertwining their fears and hopes into a shared understanding. They realized that the beauty of their connection lay in the raw, unfiltered emotion they ignited within each other. A flame born of honesty, a flicker of trust in a world that often favored pretense. As they sat beneath the canopy of stars, the night cradling their secrets, they both understood that the future may be uncertain, but the bond they cultivated held the power to transcend the barriers that society imposed on them. They were not defined by their differences, but by the undeniable connection that grew stronger with each heartfelt exchange. An emotion spark lit under the vast expanse of the cosmos. What lay ahead remained unknown, but they both silently agreed to embrace the vulnerability of their journey. Together, the diner was alive with the comforting hum of voices and the clanging of silverware. Yet, Alexander Sinclair felt the weight of the world pressing down on him as he sat at the counter. Emily was chatting with a couple nearby, her laughter spilling over like the coffee she poured. It felt like a slice of heaven amidst the incessant reminders of a life he was learning to question. But each time he glimpsed his reflection in the polished surface, he saw not just a man, but a stranger, a man who was slowly losing touch with the cloud of expectations hanging over him. As he took a sip of his coffee, Julian's voice echoed in his head, the same words ringing out with each visit. "You've really taken a liking to that little diner, haven't you? What's next? Trading your Porsche for a bike?" His business partner always seemed to find delight in mocking Alexander's newfound appreciation for the simplicity of life, projecting a discomfort that still lingered within him. "Hey, are you going to join the rest of us at the real gatherings? You know, ones that matter?" Julian would tease, shooting looks that barely masked his skepticism. For every laugh they shared, a thread taut with tension dragged at Alexander's heart. The flickering lights of the gala events felt dimmer in comparison to the glow that shadowed his moments with Emily. Yet, amidst Julian's petty jibes, he felt guilt settling in like smoke, a constant reminder of the life he had left behind, a life that still dictated the actions of those around him. Meanwhile, Lisa's voice haunted Emily even in the diner's embrace. "You know, Emily, this will only end in heartache. He could get bored and toss you aside as soon as someone more suitable comes along." Her warning slipped into Emily's thoughts like a grain of sand in an oyster. Even as the anxiety clawed at her, she fought against it. How could she deny the connection they had? Each laugh shared was a tether to something authentic, something worth holding on to. "What if he walks away when the glitter fades?" Lisa continued, her worry tinged with genuine care. "What if he retreats back to that world up there, leaving you behind?" Each concern was valid, but Emily couldn't silence her heart. The bond they had built, layered in vulnerability, felt far removed from the shallow reality Lisa described. What they shared was a fire igniting in the depths of their souls, and she yearned to explore that warmth, unchecked by fear. As the day slipped by, Alexander was swept into a storm of introspection. He walked the fine line between two worlds, the luxurious but hollow existence he was born into, and the raw, vibrant joy he discovered through Emily's eyes. During one of his visits to the diner, he found himself lost in thought as he watched her serve customers, each interaction brimming with sincere care that elicited a bittersweet ache within him. She was part of a world that bubbled with life, while he floated on the surface of opulence, feeling less human by the day. "I can't keep doing this," he muttered to himself one afternoon, the weight of his lavish lifestyle settling heavily on his shoulders. The stunning realization struck like lightning. His affluence offered comfort, but it had tightened like chains around him, binding him to a path that no longer felt authentic. "Why do you look so pensive?" Emily's voice cut through his spiral of confusion, her brow furrowed with concern. "Everything okay?" He hesitated before replying, the truth lingering just beneath the surface. "It's just, sometimes I wonder if I'm truly living." he admitted, the heaviness of his truth spilling out unbidden. What if all this, he gestured vaguely at the surroundings, is only a gilded cage? Maybe it is, she replied, her eyes reflecting understanding as she leaned closer. But that doesn't mean you have to accept it. The tension in his chest tightened with each heartbeat, their worlds colliding and swirling around in his mind. How could he fully commit to Emily when his riches felt so incompatible with her values? He had often taken his privilege for granted, but now it felt like a vast chasm dividing him from the vibrant life she embraced, a life that held promise beyond mere monetary success. With every shared laugh between them, the stakes grew higher, seizing him with reality. Could he allow himself to choose to pursue Emily? To prioritize love over the expectations that once ruled him? The thought lit a fire of determination within him, but as he looked into Emily's eyes, glimmering with hope and fear alike, he knew that this path, one filled with both light and uncertainty, would demand sacrifice and clarity. Emily! He took a breath, steadying his resolve. I need to figure out who I want to be in this world, and redefine what happiness really means for me. As her gaze met his, he sensed the gravity of their journey intensifying, propelling him towards a decision that held the power to change everything. Somewhere deep within, a voice urged him to let go of the chains binding him to a life of hollow expectations. How far was he willing to go for love, and what part of himself was he ready to surrender along the way? Caught between the shimmering expectations of society and the truth of his heart, Alexander Sinclair stood at the precipice of a life-altering revelation, unsure but resolute in his quest for authenticity. Each meeting with Emily tethered him closer to the understanding that love held the power to redefine success, if only he had the courage to embrace it. The air was thick with anticipation as the elegant gala unfolded around Alexander Sinclair, extravagant chandeliers casting their luminous glow upon the polished marble floors. Yet, for the first time, he felt a different kind of weight on his shoulders, a newfound conviction, an armor forged in the fire of his own awakening. No longer was he the hollow man slipping into the charade of wealth. Tonight, he was set to confront the facade he had worn for far too long. Among the throngs of tuxedos and flowing gowns, he spotted her. Emily. Instinctively, the corners of his mouth turned up at the sight of her, but it quickly turned into a pang of yearning that gripped him with fierce intensity. She was among the serving staff, gracefully navigating the room with a humble charm that radiated warmth. This moment ignited a fire within him, a fierce urgency to address the divide that had long kept them apart. The laughter around him echoed in sharp contrast to the silent battle playing out in his heart. Here he was, surrounded by elitism, dressed in the very armor that had served him for years, and yet all he could see was the disparity of their worlds, the glittering wealth that felt so meaningless alongside Emily's undeniable authenticity. As he adjusted his collar, the atmosphere seemed to thrum with possibilities. Each toast raised, each hollow laugh. The superficiality hung in the air like smoke drifting through the crowd. Enough was enough. What good was wealth if it stood against the truth of genuine connection? The thought brewed, daring him to rise above the suffocating expectations that demanded conformity. Before he knew it, he found himself moving across the room. The murmurs faded as he approached the main stage, the spotlight illuminating his figure. The clinking of glasses and indistinct chatter hushed, curiosity prickling in the air as he gripped the microphone tightly. The tremor in his hand was drowned out by the rush of adrenaline coursing through his veins. I have something to say, he began, his voice steady yet resonant, drawing the gaze of social elites back to him. Every eye in the room turned in his direction, the tantalizing mix of anticipation and disbelief, sparking like static electricity. Tonight, amongst all this opulence, I realized that wealth alone is a hollow vessel. Gasps echoed through the crowd, their whispers radiating like thunder, but he pressed on. This gathering is sprinkled with indulgence, yet our hearts grow emptier. It's not the money or the prestige that defines us. It's the love we share, like the laughter from a waitress, the kindness of genuine souls you brush past every day. It's those connections that breathe life into our existence. He felt a warmth wash over him as the words took flight, steadying his resolve with each statement. Eyes widened, faces flushed with indignation, and even laughter bubbled out awkwardly from the back of the room. This was no longer the Alexander they once admired, but a man willing to dismantle the carefully constructed barriers of privilege. "Look around you," he urged, gesturing to the lavish decorations and opulent displays. "What value do these arrangements hold when we're smothered by expectations, when our hearts yearn for something real? I was once trapped in this illusion, but I found clarity, genuine love, the kind embodied by people like Emily." He met her gaze, distant yet intensely full of emotion. Amidst the crowd, she stood frozen, a whirlwind of emotions cascading over her. The courage he displayed sparked butterflies in her stomach as pride and fear battled within her. Could she truly belong to this world he was daring to change? With every heartbeat that passed, Alexander felt the walls of judgment closing in, walls he had lived behind for far too long. Some eyes were hostile, heavy with disbelief. Others sparked with reflection. The reaction was palpable, mingled with a restless tension, as his declaration rippled through the audience. "Rather than being defined by our wealth, we are called to lift each other up, to appreciate the connections we create and break free from the chains of elitism," he continued, his heart pounding with fervor. "Let us not wear these masks any longer. Let us have the courage to embrace authenticity, and in doing so, forge a world richer than all the gold combined." The silence stretched between him and the crowd, suffocating but charged with energy, as a wave of realization washed over them. Alexander felt exposed but liberatingly powerful, like wind sweeping through desolate valleys. And then a clapping erupted at the back of the hall. It started slowly, almost hesitantly, yet it bloomed into a full crescendo, weaving through the polished expanse of the hall, gaining strength until applause rang against the walls. Some joined in with genuine enthusiasm, perhaps moved by his message, while others tried to hide their disdain. Yet, those willing to embrace vulnerability in that moment felt a collective shift, the gnawing fear they held on to unspooling into action. Emily's heart raced as she absorbed the weight of his words. This man, standing before a sea of privilege, had chosen her, a waitress, someone from a world so different, and bravely dismantled the very social constructs that sought to pull them apart. Every beat of the applause sent ripples through her, igniting a fierce pride in her heart. The beauty of his risk came with consequences, but it felt momentous, a step toward a life unfettered by superficial chains. As the applause rang out, Alexander locked eyes with Emily, the incredulous understanding passing silently between them. They were on the brink of something neither could foresee, a testament to love's power to crumble the divisions of wealth and status. In that moment, they both knew, no matter what may come, together they would forge a path brimming with authenticity. The world around them might still cling to its superficial judgments, but the seeds of change had been sown, bold and unyielding. The aftermath of the gala hung heavy over Alexander, and Emily like a dense fog refusing to lift it. The vibrant colors of their shared moments dimmed under the weight of scrutiny that now encompassed their relationship. Once a hidden gem, their love had taken center stage, and with it came the relentless glare of societal judgment. Friends whispered behind closed doors, colleagues exchanged knowing glances, and family members pressed for explanations they were not yet ready to provide. As Alexander faced the world around him, he felt the pressure intensify. Accusations of rebellion echoed in his ears. What's become of the prodigal son? And how could he throw it all away for a waitress? But beneath that weight, a fierce resolve began to simmer. Despite the uncertainty clawing at the edges of his confidence, each judgment felt like a gentle prod, reminding him of the freedom he had glimpsed in Emily's eyes. Sitting across from her at the diner later that week, he could see glimmers of pride mixed with concern in Emily's expression as she listened intently. The fatigue from late shifts drew faint shadows under her eyes, yet her spirit shone brighter than the neon signs flickering outside. "Can you really do this?" she asked, her voice low but steady, her hands instinctively wrapping around her coffee cup for comfort. "I mean, give everything up just like that? Maybe that's exactly what I need to do," he replied, the words tasting bittersweet yet liberating. This corporate title? It's just a golden cage with padded walls. I want to redefine my life, what success means to me. The nervous flutter in her chest lifted for a moment, replaced by admiration. I wish I had that courage, she admitted, terror lurking behind her pride. It's not just courage, he reassured her, reaching across the table to grasp her hand, their fingers intertwining like vines on a trellis. It's clarity of purpose. We've faced so many hurdles already. Together, I know we can figure this out. You deserve to be seen and cherished, just like anyone else. And I've been lucky enough to find that kind of love in you. As his words settled in the space between them, Emily felt a swirl of emotions. Fear crept back, tinged with the pride of witnessing Alexander's resolve. She was astounded by his willingness to strip away layers of privilege for a chance at something real. Yet apprehension lingered at the edges of her heart. What would life look like if he indeed let go of everything? I hope the world doesn't break you, she said softly, her vulnerability slipping through the cracks of their conversation. People will talk, and it's going to hurt. Let them talk, he replied, a steady fire igniting in his chest. Their opinions don't define us. It's our love, this connection we've forged in vulnerability that matters most. His powerful reassurance cloaked her in warmth, yet anxiety still simmered beneath the surface. As Alexander prepared to relinquish his title, her mind swirled with thoughts of balancing duties at the diner, juggling responsibilities beyond her control, and navigating the love that pressed against the walls of their disparate realities. Every day became a testament to their shared resilience. On what should have been a day of relaxation, she found herself knee-deep in paperwork, struggling to manage new responsibilities unexpectedly thrust upon her. A young writer's workshop that took flight, suddenly demanding time and creativity she had little left to spare. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, she lamented on the phone one evening, her voice cracking. Hey, Alexander's voice was steady on the other end, filled with warmth and unwavering belief. You are going to be okay. Each struggle is a stepping stone, Emily. You're not just a waitress. You're a storyteller. Hold on to that. Each encouraging word brought her strength, reaffirming her belief in herself, yet doubts still persisted. You're a waitress. That's where you belong. But she fought back against the narrative, leaning into the words they shared together, the essence of their laughter intertwining with the sticky floors of the diner, and the resilience of their evolving bond. Do you ever wonder if we're doing enough? She reflected, her gaze drifting as she looked out over the bustling city parked outside the diner's window, lights twinkling like scattered hopes. Aren't we doing enough, simply by being ourselves? He replied, the question layered with his own uncertainty, yet providing solace in her moment of doubt. That's where it starts. The insignificance of material wealth fades in the face of wholesome connections. It's all this wealth and status that serves to disconnect. As days turned into weeks, their love morphed under the pressure of societal norms and judgments. The path ahead felt both exhilarating and treacherous, but each challenge they confronted revealed deeper facets of their hearts. Their shared conversations sparked ambitions, dreams that had long been buried beneath layers of expectation. Alexander dreamed of projects that uplifted communities, merging his business acumen with ideas of purpose, inspired by Emily's unwavering spirit and courage that often shook the foundations of his own beliefs. With each encounter, they grew strong together. The burdens and worries they shared creating a tapestry of resilience. Long before they realized it, the complexities became stepping stones, each twist and turn nudging them toward broader horizons filled with untapped potential. Imagine if you could showcase what you love, your writing and your dreams, he encouraged her one evening, tracing patterns on the table with his fingers. What if we create something together? Something that uplifts people, lets them see themselves in the stories we share? As the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting a deep orange glow through the diner windows, Emily felt hope ignite within her. Wouldn't that be something? A place where the stories of our lives intersect. Yes, he exclaimed, the fervor in his voice invigorating her spirit. Let's make this happen. For us. Navigating through societal judgments began to feel less like a weight pressing down on them and more like thick underbrush they could push through. For every glare they endured, they exchanged laughter and lessons learned, drawing the strength to redefine what mattered most. In the midst of scrutiny, each moment together became a shield, protecting the core of their love from the world's harsh judgment. The stakes continued to rise, but within that lay the seed of possibility, a commitment to authenticity, connection, and boundless love, firmly rooted in the struggles they faced and the dreams they dared to pursue. As they sat side by side in the bustling diner, warmth radiating between them, both knew that together they would embrace the uncharted adventures ahead, each step forward promising both challenges and triumphs that would ultimately reshape the very foundation of their lives. The air was thick with possibility as Alexander Sinclair stepped into his office for the first time since he had severed ties with his corporate career. It felt surreal, almost like wandering into a familiar dream that had turned ghostly, yet he was determined to carve a path that melded business with purpose, a mission that stirred something deeper within his soul. The walls once adorned with accolades now echoed with potential, each empty space demanding his attention to fill it with something meaningful. As he settled into the cushioned chair behind the sleek mahogany desk, his gaze drifted to a window framing a view of the sprawling city. It was beautiful, yes, but it also represented everything he had fought against: the sterile expectations, the chains of elitism, and the suffocating nature of wealth. Now, he sought to uplift underprivileged communities, a goal ignited by the authenticity he had found in Emily's laughter, a dream tethered to her spirit. He envisioned a project focusing not on profit margins, but on creating lasting impact, helping families rise above their situations and realize their potential. Yet, it wasn't long before the calm he had come to savor began to feel precarious, just as he and Emily settled into a comfortable rhythm, navigating love amidst the chaos of their class disparity. An unexpected twist sent waves of disruption through his newfound resolve. The door swung open, and in walked Julian, the familiar face from a life Alexander was desperately trying to move away from, with an air of confidence that felt both fraught and reassuring. "Hey man, long time no see." Julian's voice was boisterous, filled with a practiced charm intended to disarm. The way he leaned against the doorframe reeked of someone who was all too comfortable in the elite circles they once shared. "Thought you might stop by," Alexander replied, masking the surprise behind a facade of neutrality. "What's up?" Julian's expression shifted from casual friendliness to something sharper, his eyes glinting with ambition. "I've got a proposition for you. A chance to jump back into the game with a lucrative merger that's making waves in the industry. It could do wonders for your portfolio." The words hung heavy in the air, tainted by the allure of regained wealth. Every muscle in Alexander's body tensed as he listened, a mixture of excitement and dread swirling within him. Here lay the temptation to return to the world he had sought to escape. The lavish gatherings, the clinking of champagne glasses, the hollow praise of peers. He had fought so hard to break free, yet the offer tantalizingly dangled before him like a decadent dessert. "Julian, I've moved on. I'm looking at life differently now," he replied, trying to push back against the urge to reconsider. But the choice felt like a dual-edged sword, both thrilling and terrifying. "Oh, come on!" Julian's tone shifted, laced with incredulity. "You don't really think you can stay away forever? That kind of money isn't just going to mascara the world behind a case of altruism. It buys influence, power, everything you wanted." The narrowing of Alexander's vision suggested tumultuous wrestling within him. Fear darted in like a dagger, slicing through the newfound warmth that had bloomed in his heart. He thought of Emily, their countless late-night conversations, her humor, the easy camaraderie that had tightened their bond. What would this mean for her if he threw himself back into the swirl of his former life? Would he fade into another hollow existence, abandoning their shared passion for authentic connection? "What would you choose?" he mused aloud, more to himself than Julian. "The comfort of wealth or the authenticity of love? Can love steer our choices the way these old dreams coax us back?" Julian raised an eyebrow, his confidence unwavering. "You know what the world expects of you, the role you play best. What's the point of pretending to be something you're not? The philanthropic act is nice, Alexander, but who will listen without the roster of the elite backing you? Business is a game bred of status, and you know it." The tension coiled tightly within Alexander, fueled by a combination of excitement, doubt, and caution. He wrestled with that seductive voice, whispering promises of security, while another, more profound, anchored in love, pushed him to see beyond the gleaming surface. "Maybe I don't want that life anymore," he replied earnestly, imagining the consequences of his choices, the weight of expectations crashing against the gentle reminders of who he was becoming. But instead of retreating back to his well of uncertainty, clarity sparked within him, fueled by Emily's ideals. The dreams they shared spoke louder than Julian's offers. "I don't want to jump back into the elite circle so fast. I want to create something purposeful, a venture that uplifts, that lives by the values I've come to appreciate through love. Let's talk about a project rooted in philanthropy, utilizing wealth in a way that speaks to both my values and hers." Julian scoffed, an expression of disbelief coloring his features. "Are you serious? You'd rather play house with a bunch of feel-good dreams than cash in on real opportunities?" "I am serious, Julian," Alexander snapped, the echo of his conviction ricocheting against the walls. "I want to matter, to make a difference, not just for myself, but for the people we can help. I refuse to stagnate in a world where I cannot fully embrace who I am becoming. I'm not just a businessman. I want to be someone who champions authenticity." The challenge hung between them like a perilous tightrope, neither side willing to yield. Yet, as he sat steadfast, Alexander reminded himself of the countless moments spent in Emily's company, the laughter, the dreams that ignited something raw and real within him. She had opened doors to a world he had closed off long ago, and for him to return to the corporate facade seemed like a betrayal not just to himself, but to the love they had built. Julian's incredulity faltered for a second, replaced by skepticism. "You really think you can find success in that?" "Not just success, fulfillment," Alexander reaffirmed, a fervent ember igniting in his chest. He was prepared to carve out this new path, one lined not with glass windows and polished floors, but rooted in humanity, compassion, and authentic connection. The decision weighed heavily within him. Shadows of fear and excitement wrestled in a taut embrace, but for the first time, that tether to Emily fortified his resolve. In that moment, he realized that love was the strongest currency he could possess. It would guide him through the intricate dance of choices that lay ahead. "What do you say we start there?" Alexander ventured, eyes trained on Julian, the sense of purpose glimmering like a newfound beacon amid the chaos. "If you're willing to partner with me on something that truly matters, something that could impact lives positively, then we can start anew." As he spoke those words, the once daunting expanse before Alexander felt less like a trickling stream and more like an open road. It was a reflection of the journey he was embarking on, a journey rooted not in definitions of wealth or societal acceptance, but in the raw authenticity love demanded. The weight of anticipation filled the air as Alexander sat in the diner, his fingers idly tracing the rim of his coffee cup. He had returned to the familiar booth where so many of their dreams had been envisioned. They had navigated the tides of change together, but uncertainty still lingered, much like the aroma of fresh coffee wafting through the air. Today, his thoughts were interrupted by the sound of crinkling paper against the smooth surface of the table. It was the letter, an unexpected delivery from Julian. As he unfolded the letter with trembling hands, nostalgia washed over him, a stark reminder of his past that stirred memories that had once seemed buried beneath layers of new beginnings. Julian's familiar handwriting unfurled his thoughts, drawing his attention to each carefully penned word. "Dear Alexander," the letter began, "I hope this note finds you well. I have been reflecting on our friendship and the journey you have embarked on." Alexander found himself momentarily suspended in time, caught between who he had been and who he was becoming. Julian's words flowed, expressing a deep admiration for the transformative path Alexander had chosen, a departure from their old life, trading superficial connections for deeper truths. "I get it now," the letter continued. "The choices we make often shape the lives we lead. I never believed in your vision for social impact before, but seeing you follow your heart has changed my perspective. I admire your courage and authenticity. Perhaps I was wrong. The world needs more people like you, people who blend love with purpose." With each line read, Alexander felt nostalgia tugging at his heartstrings, mirrored by a hint of sadness. Could remnants of old friendships really survive when transformation breathed life into new ideals? The weight of Julian's words hung heavy in the air, provoking Alexander's mind to reconcile the man he had been with the man he wanted to be. As he continued reading, Julian extended an olive branch, an invitation to collaborate on the philanthropic project Alexander had envisioned. "Let us join forces," he wrote. "We could create something monumental together, a way to uplift those overlooked by society while redefining our legacy. I believe together we can intertwine our ambitions with integrity." Alexander looked up, his heart battling between enthusiasm and apprehension. Was it possible for their long-standing friendship to evolve into something meaningful and ethical? Could they merge business prowess with a shared vision for change, all amidst societal rejection? The curve of hope intertwined with the shadows of doubt stirred within him. Just then, Emily walked into the diner, her presence igniting warmth in his chest. The moment she slid into the booth across from him, a gentle smile graced her lips, reminding him of the journey that had brought them this far. "Everything okay?" she asked, a soft concern threading through her voice. He handed her the letter, his heart flickering with a mix of relief and excitement. "It is from Julian. He wants to collaborate on the project," he replied, his eyes lighting up with revelation. "He is willing to blend our goals with integrity." As she read, Emily's fingers intertwined with his, an anchor securing their shared dreams. "This is a chance to redefine what it means to make a difference, Alexander. Embrace it." With that support igniting courage in his heart, Alexander took a deep breath, ready to embrace this collaborative journey. Together, they were prepared to dismantle societal constructs that sought to constrain their love and purpose. As they often revisited the diner, this haven where they first discovered the beauty of authentic connection, they knew they would continue to expand their narrative, holding dear the principles forged through their relationship. In their sacred space, filled with the laughter of everyday patrons and the clinking of dishes, hope flourished, reflecting expansive possibilities capable of reshaping their lives beyond the expectations of wealth. Their love story forged a tapestry of integrity, authenticity, and the courageous choices individuals make in the pursuit of genuine connections. As they mulled over the letter and their dreams, a poignant reminder lingered in the air. Love holds the transformative power to reshape lives, bridging worlds once thought divided. Together, they prepared to embark on a new journey, redefining what it truly meant to live fully, serving as an inspiration for viewers to reflect on their own connections amidst the complexities of life.